like to call the public board meeting session to order. With regard to attendance, we have in the boardroom Trustee Leclerc, Trustee Nelson, myself, Trustee Hatfield, Trustee McKinley, Trustee Armstrong, Trustee Buckler, and on the phone we have Trustee Sipcar, Trustee Burgess, and Trustee Cook. And with that, I'll look for an approval of the agenda. Did I forget someone?
Oh,
Madam Chair Burgess?
Yes, I think she wants to withdraw.
I said that. I said that she was on the phone.
She wants to speak.
To the attendance? Oh, approval of the agenda. Trustee Burgess.
Madam Chair, I have an amendment.
To the
So
agenda?
I'd like to move it.
To the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your amendment?
Would be to strike item L1, withdraw it.
Okay.
I believe it's moot. I believe my questions have been answered, and I'll wait to see if there's anything arising from that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So moved by Trustee Burgess, the agenda as amended, supported by Trustee Leclerc. All those in support of the amended agenda, that's carried. Thank you very much. And I need a motion to convene to private session. Trustee Leclerc and Trustee Nelson, all those in support, that's carried. Thank you. We're now recessed until 7 o'clock. Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to call the public session back to order. With regard to attendance, I'd just like to repeat that Trustee Sipcard, Trustee Cook, and Trustee Burgess are joining on the telephone, and all other trustees are present. I would also like to mention that we did approve the agenda as amended with the withdrawal of the new business item L1. It was withdrawn. And now we're back into public session. I would like to call upon Trustee McKinley to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. We acknowledge that we are on land and surrounded by water, originally inhabited by indigenous peoples who have traveled this area since time immemorial. This territory is within the lands honored by the Wampum Treaties, agreements between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee,
Participants are waiting in the lobby. To admit all participants in the
allied
lobby,
nations
press star 2
to
1.
peacefully share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes.
Sarah
Specifically,
Is now joining.
we would like to acknowledge the presence of the Huron-Wendat peoples and the Three Fires Confederacy, Ojibwe, Odawa, Potawatomi. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture while remaining committed to moving forward respectfully with all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruptions there on the phone. I would ask everyone to rise. We do have a special order of the day.
Chloe Purdy was a grade 10 student at Essex District High School. With merely their presence, some students can leave a lasting impact on their school community, and Chloe did that. Warm greetings with her infectious smile helped you like her even if you didn't know her that well. She had an artistic flair that was evidenced in her groovy style. She left a sparkle wherever she went, which will be missed by all of her friends. Please join me in a moment of silence.
Participants are waiting in the lobby. To admit all participants in the lobby, press star 2 1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Director. And on behalf of the
Kathy?
trustees,
Is now joining.
on behalf of the trustees, our sincere sympathy to the Purdy family. Item E, declaration of conflict of interest for this meeting. Anyone? Seeing none. Trustee Nelson, actions of the board in the private session.
Yes, 2 motions under F1, a legal matter. Could I have a mover? Trustee Leclerc, seconder. Trustee McKinley, all in support. Thank you. That passes.
Thank you. Motion for approval of the minutes from the April 16th meeting. Moved by Trustee Leclerc, supported by Trustee McKinley. All those in support of the minutes? That's carried. Thank you.
Support.
Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. Presentation of the student trustees. Who's going to start? Okay.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Good evening, trustees, senior administration, and Director Houston. We hope that everyone is enjoying the warm weather. Students are certainly excited for spring traditions such as prom, graduation, and other end-of-the-year activities. Pep rallies are also in the works with the theme of celebrating school teams and clubs. Spring is also the season of school plays and musicals, with Massey and Riverside staging Clue and Kingsville District School putting on Mean Girls. Bell River District High School's robotics team traveled to Texas for the World Finals, and Kingsville's first ever ultimate frisbee team is headed to OFSA, which I didn't know existed, with a nearly perfect record with all wins and almost 0 losses. North Star's powerlifting club took home 3 gold medals. And student council elections are also taking place this month, which gives students an exciting opportunity to practice leadership and get involved in their school communities. We would also like to thank Superintendent Dr. Howitt for the insightful presentation she gave at our May Student Senate meeting on the Indigenous and Equity Plan. We would also like to thank Savroop Saran, the Vice President of Public Education at OSSA, who will give a presentation on her student leadership journey. She encouraged students to make most of the opportunities that are given to them and use their voices to create positive school communities. This week, myself and Colin and the incoming student trustees are headed to OSSA's annual general meeting, where I will be giving 2 presentations myself and hosting a session and serving as the chair of student well-being. And Colin will be serving in his role on the public education cabinet. So with a packed May, I'm going to pass it on to Colin.
Thank you. So the student of the month for May is Kai Chin, a grade 12 student at Vincent Massey Secondary School, an excellent role model for the theme of volunteerism this month. Kai has completed over 500 community service hours for various causes such as Habitat for Humanity, Windsor Public Library, Art in the Park, Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network, Canadian Association for Girls in Science STEM Camp, and the University of Windsor Pronoun Panel. Kai is an enthusiastic supporter of school activities and events. Last year, they helped lead Massey's robotics team to the global competition in Houston, Texas, dedicating over 150 hours to the team. Kai is also an active volunteer for Massey's annual Children's Holiday Party, planning months in advance to arrange the children's entertainment. Kai has a tremendous sense of school spirit, participating in coffee houses, math contests, literature club, the school band, GSA, Massey Hacks, grade 8 open house, and grade 9 orientation, parent-teacher interview nights, Stangs Teaching Stangs, Massey Green, Stangs for a Change, and Relay for Life. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone more trustworthy or hardworking within the halls of Massey. They inspire others to join in on a cause or activities, causing positive change impact throughout the school community. Despite their busy volunteer schedule, Kai is on Massey's honor roll with distinction and is working towards the Information, Communications, and Technology SHISM. Congratulations, Kai, on being selected by Student Senate as the May Student of the Month for the theme of volunteerism.
Is Kai here? Come up to the front. Congratulations, Kai, from all the trustees. Well done. Item J, delegations. We have none. On the speakers list, we have 3 people signed up. The first one is Kennedy Wiley to speak about the RISE program. You could come forward to the mic there and you'll have 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kennedy Wiley. I am here today to discuss the topic that is very important to me. I have learned that funding for the RISE program for I have learned that we have funding for the RISE program for 2025. However, for 2026, there are plans to phase out the program and integrate all children with IEPs into regular classroom settings. I believe this will result in heightened harassment and bullying and will negatively affect many students and their self-esteem. When I was a child, I participated in the RISE program, which was previously known as LD. I'm here today to demonstrate my awareness that bullying may increase if this program is discontinued. I recall having lunch in my standard classroom. A student in my class asked about the location of the blank drawing paper, and another student pointed out that it was behind the retard table. The teacher seated the 3 of us with IEPs together in the back to provide easier assistance when necessary. This memory of but this experience has persisted into my adulthood and will continue to do so. Being part of the RISE program as a child provided me with a feeling of belonging and comprehension. It assisted me into maturing into an adult that has grasped the true meaning of having an IEP. At 27 years old, I have a child who has an IEP. I am consistently afraid that she will experience the same mistreatment that I faced, along with other children who have a variety of disabilities. I want to request that you spend a day in the special education classroom to observe the distinct behavior of these children in comparison to a regular classroom setting. I guarantee you will observe significant differences, behaviors, and performances. The RISE program has benefited me, my daughter, my nephew. Children attending these classes may not fully grasp the concepts at first, but I have personally witnessed the remarkable progress that can be achieved. My nephew has improved in counting skills, where my daughter can now read and perform math close to her grade level. Additionally, it should be noted that the high schools for these children have already been removed. Kindly allow us to at least retain these remaining programs for the sake of the children's confidence. There's an unjust stigma surrounding these classes, and we must demonstrate it by fostering understanding amongst students and staff that these children are more than their disabilities. They simply require additional time and a variety of methods to grasp or comprehend, as well as the very important sanctuary these programs provide. Let us address the issue for the benefit of future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wiley. Well said, despite how nervous you were.
I know I've never done this before. I apologize. And
No, you don't have to apologize.
I'm grateful for you allowing me to stand up and speak. I'm not used to this. So
No
thank
need
you
to
very much for your
apologize.
time today.
You did a good job. Do we have any questions for clarification from the trustees? No. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next speaker is Selena Hamilton, coming to speak on the Education Act, Section 169.1. And Ms. Hamilton, I will remind you that you need to keep to the topic of the Education Act and not speak to the work of the trustees or the operations of our school board, but to speak strictly on the Education Act, as you've indicated is your topic. Okay, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, trustees, all in the gallery and online. My name is Selena Hamilton, and today I wish to speak on the Education Act, Section 169.1, which reads, under Board Responsibility for Student Achievement and Effective Stewardship of Resources, every board shall promote student achievement and well-being, promote a positive school climate that is inclusive and accepting of all pupils, and promote the prevention of bullying, and ensure effective stewardship of board resources. Like most institutions, the Great Essex County District School Board is professing a goal of peace and safety within school halls. How is this being achieved? Current strategy seems to be that everyone must go along to get along. No one may have a difference of opinion. No moral values carry weight past the front door. The height of virtue is to be nice and unoffensive. And how is this peace plan unfolded? An assault has been made on the identity and biology of children, and no one can protest.
Ms. Hamilton, please speak to the Education Act.
No.
Speak specifically
Specifically,
to the Education
I will elaborate on the bullying. School libraries are filled with cross-dressing, flexible pronoun, transgender books written for kindergarten to grade.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hamilton, you signed up to speak on the Education Act, and I need you to stick to the topic that you've requested to come and speak on. So you wanted to speak to the legislation? You can do
Point
that.
of order. Point of order.
There is no point of order under the speaker's list. Thank you.
I challenge your rules.
Please allow me to continue. Thank you. The system has become a bully and the minority have become tyrants. The Ontario Human Rights Code outlines that every person has the right to equal treatment, and I have yet to see the Christian flag on a school flagpole. This country was founded on Christian principles. The Bill of...
I'm sorry, Ms. Hamilton. I'm not going to allow you to continue. because you've defied me several times now on what you signed up to speak about. So thank you.
Point of order.
Thank you for
I
your
challenge.
message.
Chair, point of order. I challenge your decision. Yeah, I think it's regarding the rules, the laws of the.
You need a second to challenge the chair. Do we have a seconder to challenge the chair? No second. That fails.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Thank you. Please, sorry. Security. No, Mr. Palco, I'm going to give you the same warning as I gave the previous speaker. Last time we gave you a great deal of leeway on the topic that you signed up to speak about, and then you went way off to that. So, excuse me, but there's nothing in the Education Act that allows for a speakers list. You're here because the trustees chose to allow a speakers list at our board meetings. That's our choice. Sorry. You have 5 minutes to speak on the Education Act, which is what you signed up to speak on.
Good evening, trustees, administration, all in the gallery and online. My name is Jeremy Pellico. I'm a Christian father, engineer, advocate, and Sunday school teacher, where I have a glimpse into the privileges and challenges of teaching and upholding the public trust. When a sensitive subject arises that I'm not sure is age appropriate, who do you think I defer to?
Mr. Palco? No. Security? I'm sorry, Mr. Palco. I'll ask you to leave.
Point of order.
And I'm going to request a recess and ask the trustees to relocate. Now, thank you. We're now recessed. meeting back to order. And I would just like to remind people that this is a formal business meeting of the school board. We do have rules of procedure that we follow, and no one is exempt from the rules of protocol and order at our meetings. So moving on to reports to be received, item M1 is the report of the Director of Education.
Thank you. So, over the past month, we've been given some homework by the Ministry of Education. We need to prepare for the new standardized rules on cell phone use in schools. Some things will need to be implemented, but we're already in compliance with most of the measures that were announced on April the 28th. As well, the government is working to combat vaping by students in schools, which is an issue at both our elementary and our secondary levels, and will be required to increase communication with families and students about the rules and the codes of conduct. And we've also begun piloting the placement of the vape sensors in schools, in washrooms. They're not meant for surveillance, and they don't do any surveillance. They just simply detect the use of the vapes in the area. And I'd like to thank our student trustees who have been tremendous advocates and leaders in doing this work with our student senate long before the legislation even came into effect. So thank you. We're very grateful that you're helping to do this work to make schools safer places for students. The government's also proposing legislation which will include adding a new apprenticeship pathway for grade 11 and grade 12 students so that they can participate in more apprenticeship learning. The Ministry of Education is investing $875,000 in the Coaching Boys into Men program, and high school coaches will be trained to deliver the 12-week program for male athletes about healthy relationships. It will be introduced at 200 schools across the province. We're unsure if any of our schools have been selected yet. Spring has truly sprung. Actually, today I think summer sprung. And things are getting very green. On April 22nd, the students across our board worked to try and always keep it that way during Earth Day celebrations. There were neighborhood cleanups, tree planting, and craft making. We indulged in the Tim Hortons Smile Cookies again this year happily. Proceeds from all of the sales support the Ontario Student Nutrition Program and the Hospice of Windsor-Essex, which we're very grateful for the Ontario Student Nutrition Program and the money coming back. I was supposed to participate decorating cookies at the Tim Hortons up at the corner. I couldn't wait to put my piping skills back into action, but unfortunately, because there seemed to be this big gaping hole in the road that happened, they had to close and I couldn't go. I was very disappointed by that. Does that make the celebration of health and wellness and safety at our annual symposium a little bit ironic? Not at all. It's all a matter of moderation in everything, except, of course, being vigilant when it comes to safety, which was reinforced with 16 booths set up to focus on ensuring our staff has access to comprehensive support, including mental health and well-being, along with several of our partners, including the Ministry of Labour, SBCI, and the Health Unit were among some of the speakers and guests that were there. And I'd like to thank our Health and Safety Officer, Tim Lozon, who spearheaded all of the work for this to come together for our very first year. I had the pleasure of attending. It was an exceptional event, and I know that the staff that came definitely took things away in terms of their own safety, physically, as well as their mental health. Earlier this month, students from across the board gathered at Sandwich Secondary School for 2 special Olympic Days of Champions, athletic competition, and sportsmanship. I was a little bit worried that there might be a picture that would get included despite me saying we weren't going to include it. And I see Trustee McKinley laughing. For those that have been before, you know we drive the golf cart around the track at the beginning of the ceremony. So this would have been my inaugural year of being in the cart and starting the parade. And Superintendent Boulay was going to be the driver of the cart. And unfortunately, the cart did not work. It would not start. And so we had some gentlemen push the cart off to the side and we walked, which was far better since we were participating in Olympics. I understand that by the second day, the cart was back up and running again. I'm still determined that it was the wrong key in the ignition and nothing to do with Superintendent Boulet's driving skills. Westgate Public School hosted a delightful family engagement night, enhancing their connections with parents, guardians, and caregivers. There were lots of activities, including coding, hands-on learning, and robotics. James L. Dunn Public School rolled out their first Cardinal Slow Roll to promote active transportation and safety. It's about exercise, safety, and just safely enjoying the scenery. It's always fun to visit schools, but it's way better when they give me something to do when I'm visiting. I shared my love of reading with the students at Southwood Public School. I read The Little Dandelion Seeds, The World by Julia Richardson to the kindergarten class, and The Couch Potato by Jory John and Pete Oswald to the grade 5 class. Kennedy Collegiate held its annual multicultural night with staff, students, and families enjoying performances, a fashion show, and cuisines from around the world in their very own neighborhood. From the 6th to the 10th this month, we celebrated Fit Week, focusing on healthy habits for our minds and our bodies, and the theme this year was moving and growing together. Special thank you to Renew from Jeep, who helped to coordinate all of this along with the committee. It was an exceptional week with so many things that happened. Staff Appreciation Week was fun. Acknowledging and appreciating the contributions of our employees is always affirming and rewarding. Pancake brunch that we held here in the admin building was great. You will see our chef, Scott, on the left, and then the staff enjoying the pancakes. I didn't cook any of them. I had the pleasure of doing all of the dishes. And for those of you who've made pancakes, you know they can be very messy. And I think Scott had pancake batter from one end of the cafeteria to the other, and we're still finding remnants of it. I attended Strive, which is always an empowering opportunity for grade 7 and 8 students with learning disabilities. Lots of value insights for both the students and their families. And a special thank you to St. Clair for allowing us access to the venue. It was spectacular for us to be able to showcase and have our guest speakers present to our students and their families. Congratulations to Riley Dubac from Riverside Secondary School. Riley won the gold at Skills Canada in the auto body competition. Look how proud he looks of himself. Marlborough hosted its second annual Evening of the Arts, filling the school with excitement and pride as students shared their artistic talents in dance, music, and visual arts, and the highlight was a performance by the String Project. Bellwood Public School explored the diverse backgrounds, cultures, and food at their multicultural evening, and there was lots of great music during their talent show. On May 9th, the Council for Exceptional Children held its annual spring banquet to celebrate the achievements of the students with exceptionalities and the educators who work with them. Congratulations to Sadie Baker of Massey, Kale Lovell from Westview Freedom Academy, Lily Mulder of North Star, and Ariana Rivard from Riverside. Educator awards went to Mark Farias, Annalisa Fasario, Zoran Mitrovsky, and Sonia Sovereign. Renee Lepine of North Star was given the CEC's Chapter Award. The GECDSB Cyber Hero Award is simply a way for the cyber team to say a special thank you to all of the staff that are working very hard to protect the board from the cyber attacks. Jack Miner and Kingsville Public School held their closing ceremonies this week. They were extremely well attended by current staff and former students and staff, former administrators, and people from their community. And DM Eagle will hold its closing on Wednesday, and Kingsville District High School will be on Friday, May the 31st. And then just in closing, these are the May cultural observances. And then finally, everything is set for our board-wide observance of Pride Month. Every school in the board has prepared events and activities to celebrate equity and inclusion. And of course, we will raise the inclusive progressive pride flag and fly it throughout the month of June. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to do a special shout out to whoever photoshopped our logo with the smiley face cookie on it. That was quite clever. I don't know if everybody caught that, but it was a great picture. Do we have any questions of the director's report? There was lots going on, which is great to see. Okay. Thank you very much. Trustee Sipcar, do we have an OPSPA report for this meeting?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Not really.
Okay, 1 second. What about now? Is this okay?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for hearing from me. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I'd just like to give a brief update about a couple of important issues that stemmed from the Board of Directors meeting that we had the last weekend in April now. Just to give a quick recap of the meeting, which I'll send to trustees, a summary of the meeting afterwards. We heard from our OSTA ACO colleagues about the importance of student voice and the work that they're doing to basically collect student voice across the province. I also wanted to draw the attention of our trustees to the CBSA, which is the Canadian School Boards Association. CSBA, said those backwards, which is coming up at the beginning of July. It's being hosted in Toronto by the Ontario Public School Board Association, so trustees are invited to that as well. And then I also wanted to note that it is Take Your MPP to School Week this week, and I wanted to just mention that I'm looking forward to meeting with MPP Dowie, where myself and Trustee Nelson are bringing him to a couple of schools on Thursday, and I know that he is also attending an announcement, I believe, with our board as well. And then lastly, this is the part of my update that will take the longest, but I think it's the most important as it does require trustee action by our June 4th meeting. There are new bylaw changes coming to the OPSPA constitution. Essentially, we need to change our bylaws to be in line with ONCA, which is the Ontario Non-Profit Corporation. I'm getting this wrong. It's the Non-Profit Act, and I'm blanking on what the C stands for. Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, ONCA. And essentially, in order to bring our bylaws in line at the OPSPA level, there needs to be a change in the way that we elect both our director and also our voting delegate. I'm going to send out an 8-page memo about it that has a really good frequently asked questions kind of section. But essentially, the changes that are required are just have to do with our timeline of when we elect our director and our delegate. And also the fact that we actually are no longer able to have alternates for those positions anymore, as ONCA does not allow for alternates at the board of directors level. So there's an absent director. It just means there's an absent director. There's no alternate. But again, directors are able to attend both in person or electronically. And so if there is a case where the director is unable to participate, the regional council chair can act as a conduit of information back to the member board, but there's proxy voting is not permitted. So it is a significant change in that way, as it would mean that whoever is elected as the board of director and or delegate, they would have to be present to vote on items at either of those meetings. What's also important is that these changes are required for OPSPA's AGM. So the OPSPA general bylaws were voted in favor of to be put forward at the AGM. And I'm happy to share some of those changes, or those changes, I should say, with trustees, because that will be the major piece of the AGM. And we need to confirm the trustee who will be both the director and then also the delegate for the ahead of those meetings, 30 days, which is Tuesday, June 4th, which is conveniently our next GECDSB meeting. So essentially what this means for us is we need to either confirm myself as director and and Trustee Burgess as delegate, although neither of us have talked, and so we haven't confirmed that between ourselves. But essentially, our term would go from July 2024, in this case, July 4th, 2024, all the way to the following AGM in 2025. And the last thing I'll say about that is it is requiring many school boards to have to change their policies or bylaws to be in accordance with this new timeline. So member boards are encouraged to adjust their appropriate time to the spring of each year. And basically, it would take effect until like the next term. It will not take effect until the next term of office. So hopefully, I know it's a little bit confusing. I'm on the phone. I'm going to send 2 documents that explain it all, but it will require us to vote on who will be appointed to the OPSA Board of Directors, as well as the OPSA delegate at our next meeting. And I'll end there and see if there's any questions or comments from my colleagues.
Thank you, Trustee Sipker. I do have a question because I did notice the change with regard to the dates for appointing our delegate, OPSA delegate, and voting delegate. It came out in a memo a little while ago, and I just wondered what you're envisioning for the agenda for June 4th, because those are our committee meetings and not our regular public meetings. So
right.
I'm just a little bit concerned about the process, and I think we don't have time to do a bylaw change. We would have to do a motion to set aside maybe the bylaw with regard to that part of our organizational meeting agenda. I'm just not sure.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you had a look at that or what you're envisioning.
No, I wasn't suggesting. I wasn't suggesting a bylaw change on June 4th. It was more there's a draft motion or recommendation prepared by OPSA's admin that basically just says that Trustee X will be appointed to the OPSA Board of Directors, and then essentially we can change our bylaw when we need. But it would just mean that whoever is selected in advance of our AGM in July would essentially be tasked with fulfilling the entire term from July to the following July. So we could change our bylaws at a later point. I know we have a bylaw committee meeting, so it could fall within that. I think the new business that we would need would just be to approve the appointments to OPSBA's board of directors and the delegate as well.
No, so
I have a question, Burgess.
Yeah, if I could just finish my question for clarification first. So we don't have new business of the board on June 4th. So I'd have to look at that procedurally, how we do that. So we'll go to Trustee Burgess, your question.
Thank you for the report. I appreciate that, Trustee Sipkar. Presently, I'm the voting delegate. I understand the Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporation Act. I've actually had some work with that and training with that because I've had to in other not-for-profit organizations. But I hope we can set aside some time ourselves too, as presently the voting delegate and the director, to understand something, but some of it. But I think if it was at the operations, I would say operations and finance committee, or could we not have a notice of motion now to put that forward as something that we need to do, and then have it on the agenda June 4th as actions arising from a committee? Could we do that, or do we need to have a special meeting? Because it has to be done. And the other question I have would be that you said July to July, but generally our AGMs at OPSAs are in June. The exception is July because we are hosting CSBA, but that's cyclical and not even maybe once in a term. So I'm wondering, when you said July to July, is that what OPSA is recommending?
So to answer that second question, it does say 2025 annual meeting date to be decided early to mid-June. So yes, you're correct on that.
Okay. And
then to answer, procedurally, I don't know that it could go. I mean, I'm not the expert on procedure, but I don't know that it could go to the Ops and Finance Committee because we haven't presented it as a notice of motion at the previous one. My suggestion would be if that we need to call a special meeting of the board, or if there can be an item added to as a new business item to the meeting, the board meeting at the end of the night. That would be probably the best thing to do. And I again will send this out. It has the draft language in it that we can use.
So, Trustee Sipcar,
Thank
you
you.
could make a notice of not a notice of motion. Sorry, you could make a motion from your report that the current OTSPA delegate and the current voting delegate continue to serve through till the 2025 OTSPA annual meeting. That would be appropriate from your report.
Sure. I just had not confirmed that with Trustee Burgess as the voting delegate, and it would also require that for myself that I commit to all of the meetings, and that trustees be aware that if I'm not able to attend, we wouldn't have an alternate.
Right.
And at this point, some of the meetings are so far out that I wouldn't be able to 100% commit to it. So I just wanted to have that conversation with the board in case there is anyone else who is interested or felt compelled in that direction.
I think that's been well noted. So it would be up to you to make the motion, and then if Trustee Burgess decides, I guess that she doesn't want to accept that position, she would let us know in reaction to your motion if you choose to put the motion forward as a result of your report. So,
sure,
Trustee Sipcar,
I can read out. I can read out the draft motion, and then if I get a seconder, we can go from there.
Right. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So if we do, if there's a motion put out for Trustee Sipcar and Trustee Burgess, is that just not shutting out anybody else that might be interested?
The motion could be defeated. The motion could be defeated. And then we would have to look for other candidates. Or
to speak to that in response to Trustee Cook, I felt like I was what I was hoping to do with this director or this report was to give the information to trustees, then have the appropriate conversations to see if there was anybody who was interested, and have those appropriate conversations, because I realize I'm sharing it with you all at this time, and you're not able to even read it in writing or anything. So that was the purpose of then us, voting on June 4th instead of tonight.
so the information was shared by OPSPA, and I believe it was in the OPSPA updates or whatever they're called, but I think the information was shared by OPSPA, and that's where I read it. So all we're actually doing is extending the term of the two current trustees. That's the delegate and the voting delegate. We're extending them from our organizational meeting in November to the annual meeting sometime in June. So that's essentially what's happening.
I have a supplemental, and I understand that, Chair Hatfield, but I also like Trustee Sipcar's way of doing it, which is a little bit more democratic, where other people will have a chance to absorb the information and make a decision whether or not they want to run. Whether or not we have anybody, that's just another story, but everybody deserves an opportunity and not a motion just to go through tonight. And even Trustee Sipcar has stated that, she's not sure about all the meetings that she can attend and what her schedule is like. I think we just need to slow it down and let everybody absorb and have a chance to run if they choose to. And if they don't, they don't.
I understand your point, and I would say that any trustee would be in the same boat, that they don't know what their future schedule would be, whether or not they can commit to all those meetings. But the other alternative, I suppose, if you're not comfortable, well, it's up to Trustee Sipcar whether she's comfortable putting that motion forward or not. And if a majority of trustees support it, then that's taken care of. If not, we may have to incorporate a special board meeting to get this done by the deadline. So, Trustee Sipcar, I'll leave it in your hands to either put the motion on the floor or not.
Thank you, Chair Hatfield. Through you, I think just because I hear some maybe dissent from Trustee Cook and who would like a little bit more time, I won't put the motion forward and will request that we have a special meeting of the board. I do think there are some other considerations with respect to, the role of the director and the voting delegate as well that are worth discussing amongst trustees. So I think it's more prudent to just have a few weeks to consider it, and then we can put something forward on June 4th.
That would be if we have a special meeting on June 4th, but could I please have the absolute deadline on this?
It is June 4th. It's 30 days prior to July 4th.
Thank you. So we'll look to schedule a special meeting.
I have my hand up, Burgess.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Burgess. There's no motion to discuss, so do you have a question of the report?
It's on the report, and it's on the nuances of the report.
That's fine.
So in November, the corporate board decided who their OPSPA representatives were. We've had board of directors meetings. We've had updates. So we've made plans based on those updates. So as the voting delegate, I knew in November, if I was chosen, that I would have to attend the AGM, for example, no matter where it was or whatever. So I've already made those plans because they're really pretty imminent. So I just want to have that for information, if nothing else. I'm proceeding as if I'm the voting delegate, and that means that we're going to every regional meeting for sure, and attending the AGM. So,
correct. Point taken.
As far as the report goes, I guess my question is to the reporter: is there something I need to do in that instance before June 4th? Does that have to be reconfirmed by every board, despite every board's decision, at the organizational meeting? It's not in our bylaws now. It's not required before 25. So.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. It's my understanding that a lot of boards are in a similar position to us in that they are needing to put forward motions to approve appointments for the Office of Representatives, and this does require a policy or bylaw change, or at the very least, the understanding that it will, lengthen the term for the current year, and then they have to figure out their bylaws later. So. To answer your question, Trustee Burgess, I don't know. My assumption is that you and I would continue, but I will say that I know that you and I have, because other boards keep the role of the voting delegate and the director together. They don't have the issue with two people sharing the role, and I know you and I saw it, and it has been practiced at the Greater Essex Board, is to have it as a more shared role. And that's no longer really acceptable, seeing as you can't have an alternate for the director. So with that said, I just think that we need to, make sure trustees are in favor of that for us to continue. And I'm happy that you've already made your arrangements. For the CSBA, they actually made that really clear that, most boards will have had, made their arrangements, but it is an AGM that all trustees can attend. So if you're, for whatever reason, if you're not the voting delegate, then you can still attend. So I think that's the best of my knowledge where things are at, because everybody is in this boat, essentially.
Thank you. Is there anything more to your report?
No, I think I touched on everything. I will be sharing a longer summary that OPSBA has put together via email, as well as this list of FAQs and like information around the board appointments that was shared by OSPA as well.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to M3, which is the strategic plan update. Is someone going to speak to this or no? We all have the long report in our package, beginning on page 12. That was a great amount of work. I would thank administration for that, and it certainly gives trustees a good overview of the goals of our board in accordance with our strategic plan. Do you have any questions on the report? Seeing no questions. Again, I would just say thank you to administration, and this is a great piece of work for you to form your goals and your workload and all of that moving forward. So thank you very much. M4 is dismantling anti-Black racism report. Is there someone presenting this? Oh, no. Okay, a question? Trustee Nelson?
Thank you through Madam Chair. I just wanted to say I'm very thankful for this report. It's so thorough and we're doing a lot of amazing things here. And my question is around page 29, 2.5, and it talks about strengthening internal mechanisms and processes to enable students, parents, and caregivers to report acts of anti-Black racism free from reprisal. I'm wondering if we have something in place right now, or is that what we're working on?
Director?
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the question. So we are currently in the process of developing what that mechanism would look like. There's a piece with some other reporting around anonymous, then some not anonymous, and we're not wanting to have multiple places for people to have to go. So we're working with the IT department about what could that look like, and if it was an anonymous, does it go this way? Not anonymous, does it go that way? And then where does that get filtered to so that everybody isn't seeing the documentation that's coming in? But we definitely are working on some form of a mechanism for that.
Supplementary to that, or is it a different question? Okay.
Do you have a date or a target for when we wanted to have this in place?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I don't want to commit to something right now because there's multiple things that need to be looked at. However, we do know that we will be entering year 3 of our dismantling anti-Black racism of our 5-year plan. So that would be the most far off end date, but hopefully far prior to that.
Trustee Leclerc?
Just wondering if there's what the timeline is on a definitive decision on the policing aspect of this project.
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you for the question. We did have a committee meeting, and then we're going to schedule another one because there is more information that's come forward, some from a community partner, some from Windsor Police Services, but also the committee would like to potentially have a workshop for trustees about the impact of police in schools to share everything that they found during the work that they did.
Other questions on the report? I just wanted to mention that on page 30, there will be a consultation coming up with trustees with regard to guidelines for student dress. And I've already requested that the director schedule that as a workshop because we can't actually do consultation during a board meeting. So you can plan on that coming up in the near future. Okay. And again, thank you very much for the report. Moving on, M5 is the chair's report, and I do have a brief report with regard to information received from the Minister of Education on a couple things coming up for the new school year. One is something new. It's with regard to guest speakers in our schools. And effective with the new school year, The ministry will require schools to provide detailed notice in advance to parents and guardians whenever guest speakers or presentations are invited into their schools. This is new from the minister. And just to give you a little bit of the detailed information without going into too much detail, but so boards will now be required to create a policy with regard to third-party speakers and presentations in our schools. The new policy will have to be publicly available. The schools will have to provide specific information to the ministry with regard to external speakers or groups that are coming in from every grade, kindergarten to grade 12, at least 14 calendar days in advance of the date that the presentations or the guest speakers are to come in. What else? They need to provide full information with regard to the external guest speakers and presentations, including the date and time of the activity, the names of the guest speakers or the organization they represent, the time and location of the activity. This is all activities that happen during the school day, together with the names of the presenters or performers, the topic of the activity, and the connections to the curriculum and the purpose of the activity, and the details of any handout materials or giveaways or literature that will be provided. All of this has to be provided to the ministry as well as to the parents in advance of a presenter. The other thing, the other second area is something that we're already doing at our school board, and it was more of a reminder that with regard to our PA days, the ministry mandates certain topics that align with provincial priorities. The three priorities being achievement of learning outcomes in core academic skills, preparation of students for future success, and student engagement and well-being. So the minister has laid out learning objectives from PA days and mandatory PA day topics, and that all PA days have to be reported to the ministry in terms of the agenda for the day and the topics that are going to be covered and the outcomes. We're already doing that, but it's a reminder that school boards are required to submit the outline for their PA day activities coming up for the next school year, no later than August 15th this summer. And school boards are also required to publicly post and submit to the ministry a detailed summary of PA day activities at least 14 days in advance of PA days. And I wasn't aware of this, but apparently there are some central terms regarding PA days and their topics that are actually part of collective agreements. Mm-hmm. And the minister just reminded us in this memo of topics that may be covered during 3 particular mandatory PA days as outlined by the different teachers' federations in their collective agreements. So if anyone would like to have all the details of this, just send me an email and I'd be happy to share this communication from the minister. And that's my report. Are there any questions on that? Okay.
Burgess, I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you for that. I'm interested in seeing the details. The first part of it with the 14 days of advance notice of any third-party speakers, was that for curricular presentations only, or does that include extracurricular and our community use? And my question would be, was there consultation around that? This is the first I've heard of it. I didn't hear any advance notice as far as, like, did it go to OPS, but did it circulate in some way? Where did it come from?
I'm not aware of consultation. It never came up during any of the conversations with the minister, but the thing that I'm reading from, this correspondence from the minister, did go to OPSPA,
Okay.
as well as Code and EPO and OSSTF and a lot of other organizations that need to get it. I'm not aware, I can't tell you 100% about whether or not there was consultation, but I'm not aware of it. And it's any guest speaker or presentation in the school during the school day. So
Thank you.
anybody who comes in from outside the school,
Right.
any third party. So it could be a presentation, could be a music group coming in, could be a guest speaker coming in, could be somebody coming in to read a story to the children. Anybody who isn't assigned to the staff of the school who is coming in to do some special activity during the school day. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. It's sort of like anybody who signs the visitor book. Yep, I get it. And I think I don't think there was consultation. I think what you said is their distribution sort of as a fait accompli. So
That's
thanks
my
for that. I
impression.
appreciate it.
That's my impression.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, Trustee Buckler? Oh no, they wouldn't be coming in to make a presentation. Like to...
I don't know, a new curriculum, like new math or anything like that.
I would think that they would be staff assigned to that school, so I would not.
I would hope.
They're a guest.
I would hope that would be.
But administration couldn't get that clarified. And student trustee Pine? Oh, you had your hand up. Okay. Anyone? Trustee Chin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you send the communication to the trustees, the provincial update just now you mentioned? Is that okay? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, moving on to trustee question period. Any questions of administration? Trustee McKinley?
Yeah, I've got a question for Director Houston. Just wonder, you mentioned at the beginning of your report earlier, mention of the cell phone changes, and I'm wondering how that might impact our current digital responsibility policy and regulation, where we highlight our cell phone usage guidelines. If that require some changes to ours?
Thank you for the question through you, Madam Chair. So we are reviewing that, as well as we're reviewing the student handbook that includes student code of conduct to make sure that they're all in alignment with each other to meet the obligations of the PPM.
Any other questions for this meeting? Moving on, notices of motion. Seeing none. Announcements. Trustee McKinley.
Sorry. I'd also like to highlight the Marlborough Arts Evening. I was able to attend my alma mater. I always love going back and visiting. And it was spectacular. We never did anything like that back in my day. So it was nice to see so many people out for that. And just the energy in the school was palpable. And also that same night, got to go to the CEC banquet, which was also fantastic. And if you've not been to the CEC banquet before, you don't know what you're missing out on. And it was nice that Trustee Nelson was able to join us this year for it.
Thank you. Any other announcements for this meeting? No? Well, then we've come to the end of our approved agenda, so I will declare the meeting adjourned and thank everyone for their time this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.